There's a moment in sports that's almost impossible to explain unless you've felt it yourself. When something happens and the air just changes. When everyone in the room goes quiet at the exact same second. Not because something went wrong, but because something went so profoundly right that the human brain needs a full second to process it. That moment happened on a Tuesday morning in June 2026, and most people didn't even see it coming. A phone buzzed. A girl read a number, and then she cried. And what happened next, over the following 6 days, would become one of the most extraordinary stories in the history of professional tennis. Not because of who won, but because of who showed up and why. Now here's the first thing you need to understand. This story doesn't start at Wimbledon. It doesn't start in London. It starts 6 months earlier on a side court in Melbourne, where someone in a scheduling office made a decision they almost certainly regret, and unknowingly pulled the pin on something that would detonate across the entire sport. Court 6 at the Australian Open holds exactly 1,500 people. It's a smaller court, the kind you put first-round matches on, the kind where the stands are maybe half full, where you can hear the ball hit the strings because the crowd is quiet enough to let you. That's what they expected. That's what anybody would have expected. What they got was something else entirely. The line outside Court 6 that morning stretched hundreds of yards through Melbourne Park. People who had arrived 2 hours early couldn't get in. Security started closing the gates, turning people away. People who had been standing in the January heat for over an hour just to watch a first-round match between two players ranked outside the top 30. And the ones who couldn't get inside? They didn't leave. They stood in the walkways. They pressed against the fences. They cheered from outside. And when Alex won a point, the sound from outside the court was louder than the sound from inside. 101,696 people attended the Australian Open that day. It was the highest single-day attendance in the tournament's history, and a staggering portion of them were there for one person. A 21-year-old from Quezon City who most of the tennis world had barely learned to pronounce correctly. Britain's BJK Cup captain was watching from the stands. She went on BBC Radio 5 Live afterward and said, "And I want you to really hear this." She said, "I couldn't believe the cues. Who's on the scheduling team?" That quote went everywhere, because it perfectly captured the exact moment the tennis establishment first realized it had made a catastrophic miscalculation. Not about Alex's game, about Alex's gravity. But let's slow down for a second, because this is the part people skip over, and they shouldn't. Because if you skip it, you miss the whole thing. Melbourne has 60,000 Filipinos, 60,000 people who left the Philippines, crossed the ocean, rebuilt their lives in a city that wasn't theirs, and made it home anyway. And on that Tuesday morning, it felt like a significant portion of them had all independently decided, without any organized campaign, without any celebrity endorsement, without any promotional push, to show up. Because she was playing. Because she was one of them. And this is the thing about the Filipino diaspora that takes a minute to fully land. There are 13 million overseas Filipinos scattered across the planet right now. 13 million? They're nurses working nights in Birmingham. They're engineers in Melbourne. They're seafarers on cargo ships timing their shore leave around match schedules. They're domestic workers in Dubai watching live streams on their phones during breaks. They're students in Edinburgh who have been quietly saving money since January. And for many of them, not all, but many, one of the deepest, most persistent aches of living overseas is the distance from something that feels like you. Something that says, "We see you, we know you, you're not invisible here." And then Alex started winning. And suddenly, Filipino nurses in London were texting Filipino engineers in Melbourne at midnight about a second set tiebreak. Watch parties that started with 5 people were ending with 50. Group chats that had been dormant for months were flooding with messages every single match day. And none of it was manufactured. None of it was a marketing campaign or a coordinated push or an influencer activation. It was just recognition, the kind that bypasses logic and goes straight to something deeper. Alex said it herself, in that plain, unperformed way she has of speaking. She said, "The Filipinos, we have such a strong sense of community. I feel like when one of us does well, we all have that shared sense of pride." Say that slowly. One of us, all of us. That's not a quote from a press conference. That's an identity statement. That's millions of people hearing their own interior monologue spoken back to them by a 21-year-old on a tennis court. And the tennis world, which runs on metrics and demographics and market data, had absolutely no framework for it. They kept seeing it week after week and couldn't categorize it. Indian Wells, hundreds of fans in Alexandra fan club shirts queuing for hours to watch practice sessions. Not matches, practice, just to see her hit balls. Dubai, tournament officials saying publicly, and I'm quoting here, "It's a very big community and we are creating loyalty among fans." Rome, same story, different city, different flag-waving crowd, same outcome. And always the same pattern. Organizers expect 60% capacity. Alex gets placed on an outside court, and then thousands of people show up and there's suddenly nowhere to put them. By the time Wimbledon came around, some tournament directors had started quietly adjusting. But not all of them had fully grasped what was about to happen, because this time was different. This time had a number attached to it that changed everything. Now here's where the story gets genuinely insane. June 22nd, 2026, 6 a.m., the WTA rankings update drops, and Alex checks her phone and sees 30. World number 30. She's jumped 5 spots in a single week. Let that breathe for a second, because 5 spots in 1 week isn't normal. It doesn't just happen. You have to do something to make it happen. And what she had done the week before in Berlin was something the tennis world should have talked about far more than it did. In the semifinals of the WTA 500 Berlin Open, she beat Elena Rybakina, world number 2. Then she turned around and beat Elina Svitolina, world number 8. Back-to-back, in the same tournament. Those aren't upsets in the soft part of the draw. Those are 2 of the best players on the planet, beaten in consecutive matches by a 21-year-old who, when someone told her afterward that she'd just cracked the top 30, responded with the kind of quiet that comes from someone who has been working toward something for a very long time and still can't fully believe the door's opening. But then her phone buzzed again. And this is the detail that makes everything else make sense. Victoria Moko, world number 9 Canadian Wimbledon contender, had withdrawn. Left knee. And with that one withdrawal, Alex didn't just move to number 30. She moved to 29. And 29 meant seeded. And seeded meant, for the first time in the entire history of the Open era, in nearly 60 years of professional tennis Grand Slams, a Filipino player would have their name in the seeded column of a major. Not one player, not one match, not one round. Not ever, until now. Now stop and actually feel what that means. A seed at a Grand Slam isn't just a number, it's protection. It's the tournament saying structurally, officially, undeniably, you belong here. You won't face the best players in the world until the later rounds. You have a path. And when that was announced, when the WTA made it official, tennis Twitter went silent for about 4 seconds. And then it erupted. And the Filipino diaspora? The Filipino diaspora did not celebrate quietly. People were booking flights before breakfast. Group chats that had already been loud were suddenly deafening. And here's what you have to understand about who these people are and what these flights mean. These weren't wealthy tourists with flexible schedules. The nurse in Birmingham who booked a ticket that morning had been working double shifts for 3 weeks. The caregiver in Rome who rearranged her entire holiday schedule hadn't taken a day off in 2 years. The seafarers who timed their shore leave specifically around the Wimbledon draw. They had planned this with the kind of logistical precision usually reserved for military operations. These are people for whom a flight to London isn't casual. It's a decision, and they made it immediately. Because this was Alex, and this had never happened before. And they were not going to miss it. But here's the question that nobody was quite asking out loud yet. The question underneath all the celebration and the ticket sales and the emergency scheduling meetings that tournament directors were suddenly holding. What actually happens if she goes deep? What happens if the crowds that showed up in Melbourne and Dubai and Rome show up at Wimbledon and she wins a match, then another, then another? What happens when this stops being a story about a seeding and becomes a story about a run? Because the bookmakers had noticed. the players had noticed. Coco Gauff, world number 4 Grand Slam champion, one of the most recognizable athletes on the planet, when asked who would be the number 1 jersey seller if tennis worked like the NFL or the NBA, she didn't hesitate. She said, "Alex, she has a huge fan base." She said, "Alex, she has a huge fan base. She actually would be number 1, probably." Think about what Coco Gauff is actually saying there. She's a Grand Slam champion with millions of fans telling you that the 29th ranked player in the world would outsell her on merchandise. That's not just a compliment. That's a seismic admission about how fan loyalty actually works, about what it means when a community isn't just following someone, but is deeply, personally invested in them. Ava Jovic backed it up. Former pros on the Nothing Major podcast got into it properly. Someone asked the question everyone had been tiptoeing around. Is Alex the biggest draw in women's tennis right now? Bigger than Sabalenka? Bigger than Coco? And the answer was yes. And then someone mentioned the number that made even the most skeptical tennis insiders pause. At the Australian Open, Alex held a standard pre-tournament press conference. The kind that usually gets a few thousand views online, maybe. Carlos Alcaraz, reigning Wimbledon champion, had 29,000 viewers for his. Aryna Sabalenka, world number 1, had 9,000. Alex had 171,000. 171,000 people watched a press conference. Not a match. A press conference. She had 19 times more viewers than the world number 1. When the WTA saw those numbers, something shifted. Because there's a difference between knowing a player is popular and watching data completely obliterate your model of what popularity means in your sport. And the thing is, and this is the part that makes Alex genuinely different from every other player generating buzz right now, she didn't manufacture any of this. She's not calculating her cultural impact. She's not building a brand with a team of strategists. When she found out about those press conference numbers, she said quietly, "And I want you to hear the humility in this." She said, "I'm nowhere near the leagues of course, the greats." She genuinely means that. She's not performing modesty. She's a 21-year-old from Quezon City who started playing tennis as a kid and has spent her entire career doing the work. And the response to that work has grown into something neither she nor anyone around her fully expected. And that's exactly why it hits the way it hits. Because you can feel it. When she's on the court, you're not watching a celebrity managing an image. You're watching someone who desperately, visibly, quietly wants to win. Someone who carries the weight of a nation's hope not with theatrics, but with her jaw set and her eyes locked, and her body doing something that took years and years and years to learn. And the Filipinos watching her, on their phones during night shifts, in living rooms in Dubai, in the stands at Wimbledon with their flags pressed against the barrier, they feel that. They feel it because they recognize it. Because that same quiet, relentless, uncomplaining determination is exactly what took them across the ocean in the first place. She's playing for herself, but she feels like all of them. And this loop, is what nobody in tennis had built any infrastructure for. She plays better with them there. The noise in Melbourne pushed her through tight moments she might have lost in a quieter building. The flags in Indian Wells reminded her in the third set why she was fighting. The crowds in Rome made her feel, in her own words, unstoppable. And that feeds back into her game. And she wins more. And she rises in the rankings. And more Filipinos cross oceans. And the loop accelerates. No algorithm anticipated this. No draw committee had a protocol for it. No court scheduling system was built to handle thousands of people showing up for someone ranked 29th in the world as if she were already a champion. And now she was walking into Wimbledon, seated, protected, with a path. With thousands of Filipinos already in London, nurses and engineers and seafarers and students and caregivers, all of them operating on something that isn't certainty. That's the thing that stops me every time I think about this story. These people didn't book flights because she had won. They booked flights because she might. Think about the faith embedded in that sentence. Think about the money spent and the shifts rearranged and the childcare sorted and the days off negotiated. All of it built not on a guarantee, but on a belief. A belief that one of their own was standing at the edge of something that had never happened before, and that they needed to be in the room when it did. If it did, when it did. And that's the thing about hope that's real versus hope that's performed. Real hope costs something. Real hope means you actually put something on the line. Every ticket purchased was a bet. Every flight booked was a declaration. Every flag packed into a suitcase was a statement that said, "We believe in her. We were here before she made it, and we'll be here when she does." Wimbledon 2026. The grass is freshly cut. The tournament directors are in emergency meetings about court assignments. Hospitality teams are being briefed. Because nobody wants a repeat of Melbourne Court 6. Nobody wants to be the person who put Alex on an outside court when thousands of Filipinos were already in London and more were landing every hour. The draw is set. The seed is real. The path is open. And somewhere in a hotel room in SW19, a 21-year-old from Quezon City is sitting quietly, probably not sleeping great, thinking about a first-round match that for her is just tennis, the same tennis she's been playing her whole life. But for 13 million people scattered across the globe is something that doesn't have a word for it yet. Something between pride and prayer. Something between watching and willing it into existence. She walks out of the tunnel, and they roar. And in that sound, that singular, enormous, completely spontaneous eruption of noise, you can hear everyone who stood outside Court 6 in Melbourne because they couldn't get in. You can hear the group chats going off in Dubai and Birmingham and Edinburgh and Rome. You can hear 60 years of Grand Slam history that didn't have a Filipino name in it. And one girl from Quezon City, 21 years old, first Filipino seed in Grand Slam history, standing on the grass at Wimbledon, she hears it too. And she knows. She already knows. This is what it was all for. This is what it was all for.